Welcome to the Village Talks. This is a space where physiology meets lived experience, where we talk honestly about the body, the nervous system, relationships, and the real questions families are asking without fear-based narratives or a one-size-fits-all answer. We're your hosts. I'm Dr. Jaimy.
And I'm Dr. Brittany. We're chiropractors, perinatal specialists, and humans who work closely with families through preconception, pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and early parenthood. Whether you're preparing for pregnancy, currently pregnant, newly postpartum, raising a little one, or supporting someone who is, you're in the right place.
Let's get into today's conversation.
Hello, and welcome back to the Village Talks podcast. Today we're going to be talking about due dates. There's a lot about this topic. Our goal is always for you to walk away from these episodes feeling more empowered and like you have more resources, better questions to ask, and things like that. So for us, we really want to touch on the nuances when it comes to due dates. They are estimations. That's why it's called an EDD, estimated due date, because of how we've been trying to track them forever. And so we'll just kind of get into it and go from there.
Yeah, I think this probably could be multiple episodes, and
they always
maybe
are.
It will be. But we often start to see patterns.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, with 22 years in practice, I've watched a lot of things sort of shift and change. And I do think there have been some pretty dramatic shifts post-COVID in particular. Mm-hmm. In our practice, we do see a lot of patients having babies over the age of 35. The majority of our patients probably are getting labeled as advanced maternal age.
You are not geriatric. That's my one controversial part of this episode.
And so I think that it's important for patients to have a full perspective of what's happening today in terms of how we look at and measure and discuss risk around due dates isn't how it was 5 years ago or 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And certainly not 100 years ago.
I'm actually curious for you, when you had your babies, what was the landscape then? And then how do you feel like it's changed now?
I think, the general trend in the medical model of birth is intervention as a means of prevention. So I think it comes from a space of, well, X, Y, and Z could happen. So we're going to back up all the way to D and intervene here and not let that happen. Yeah. And I'm like, fair, right? When you exist, I'm not in maternal fetal medicine. So if I existed in a space where every single person I saw was high risk and there were high stakes on the table, how I feel about this topic would likely be very different.
Totally.
The majority of our patients do exist in a relatively low risk state in terms of their pregnancy and their birth. So I would say that is this conversation is around due dates separate from the need for medical induction because of the reasons that exist for that. Absolutely. Right? We're talking about somebody who doesn't have high blood pressure, doesn't have cholecystitis, doesn't have uncontrollable gestational diabetes, right? Like that's not what today's discussion is about. Today is about how do we calculate due dates? It's still a guess.
How we try. Right?
How we try to calculate due dates is how we've been trying to calculate due dates as far back as anybody's been trying to do this. We live in an age where we want numbers, we want research, we want facts, we want control.
That's a big one.
We have yet to actually determine a very reliable way to understand when babies are going to arrive. So we are now existing in a 4 to 5 week window that is considered normal. Most people don't realize that their window is that large. I do think in this day and age, more people feel that it is an estimate. But I have 100% had patients there's one patient in particular, she kept talking about, on baby's birthday, on Saturday, on the 23rd, and I was like, are you getting induced? Like she was speaking fact,
Yeah.
right? She was making statements. This
Yeah.
baby is absolutely coming on this day.
Yeah.
And it, to the point where I was like, are you getting induced on that day? And she's like, no, but that's my due date. And it's like, you know that like statistically, like there's maybe like a 10% chance your baby's coming on that day. And it was
variation.
It was like, I had just proved to her that the world was flat or that aliens, it was like this out there concept. She just was like, what? This is brand new information. I've never heard this before. And so, then we just, I'm like, maybe they might come on that day, but it's a guess. And
my partner always loves Friends, and so is my sister. And when you said that, all I'm thinking about is Phoebe. This is brand new information. Sorry.
We quote Friends a lot in our house.
Oh gosh. Okay. Anyway. Yeah. Okay.
But that really, it did seem like I was the first person, not just in her pregnancy, but in her whole life, that had said that to her. Yeah. So I don't think that's the way most people are moving through their pregnancy, really expecting like due date is the day my baby comes and I can plan for that. Mm-hmm. But I think what we see is we embrace the unknown for months and months and months. And then the closer we get to that due date, the less willing everyone is to continue to accept that there's a lot of variability in this. Totally. And so, having gone through my own pregnancies, the closer you get to the due date, the more you're like, but when? But I'm like, God, if I could just get like a 3-day window, I'd feel really good about this. Yeah. But it could be 3 days. It could be 3 weeks. Yeah. It is hard.
I just had one of our clients who's also my doula client. She when you get to the end of pregnancy, it's so hard. Sometimes you're just tired, and she's like crying and laughing at the same time. She's like, I don't know why I'm crying. I'm just so tired. I'm so done. But also I don't know when it's happening. So you go through all of these different emotions, and we're like 3 weeks out from her due date. And it's one of those things where it gets that constriction and the pressure and I'm 37 and all this stuff. And, so it all starts to build right there.
It's difficult physically. Yeah. Right. I mean, we absolutely have patients who are like, I feel okay. Like, I mean, I don't want to be pregnant forever, but I'm not miserable. Yeah. Right. Like that's a good space to be. Mm-hmm. It gets a lot harder emotionally. Yeah. Because it's impending. There's so much anticipation. Mm-hmm. There's just I don't know that there's anything ever in your life where there's more anticipation for this thing. Yeah. And in this day and age, for most of us, our lives are very scheduled. Our lives are very controlled. Yep. And this is completely out of our control. So it's physical, it's emotional. I think it can create tension and challenges at work, in your relationship with your partner, family and friends, and people calling and is the baby here? Like I finally was like, do you think I'm gonna have a baby and not tell you? Yeah. Don't stop texting me. Like you're stressing me out.
I know you mean well, but please stop.
Yes. And I was able to be like, I love you. I need you to stop. Mm-hmm. You're stressing me out. Yeah. I know that's not your intention, but here's what's happening. If I reach out to you, great. I promise we'll let you know. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And most of our family wasn't here. Right. So everybody is far away. And I think that's part of it is they feel like they're not part of it. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, it's one more of those things. It comes from a good place. Yeah. You got to figure out what it's doing for you. Mm-hmm. So we get it. I get it from the side of like, I just kind of want this to hurry up and happen so I can stop anticipating it and stop not knowing. Yeah. I think from the medical side of it, there's not a lot of patience either. Yeah. Right. And I think in some situations there is this, well, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen. I'm like, it's possible. Yeah. It's not highly probable. Yeah. And
are you considered low risk? Great.
Yeah. And I do think that there are a lot of things that go into it and why it's an estimate. Ovulation varies.
Yeah. You can ovulate twice in 1 month.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Some people know, we do have more people who are tracking and things like that. So you may have a good sense of when you ovulated.
Yeah. I have friends who are like, I know exactly the day that we conceived.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But even then, even look at IVF. Yeah. There's still variability. Absolutely. You know what I mean? Like, so it's there's when did we ovulate? When did conception happen? And then I think there is just variability in how long it takes. I would say how long it takes us to cook our babies.
Yes.
Baby's neurological development is what dictates readiness for birth, right? And so there's some variability there.
Yep.
5 weeks is a whole lot of variability.
Yeah.
But in practice, I have absolutely seen babies come on their own spontaneously, 37 and change, perfectly healthy.
Yep.
Feeding, eating, sleeping, pooping, doing all the things like a full-term baby, right? And then I've seen babies at 41 and a half, 42 weeks who are a little on the small side, right? And I'm like, you're very sleepy.
Yeah.
You seem a little early, you know? Like the behaviors can seem more like a baby that comes early or more like a baby that comes late, right? Because there often is a difference between a 37 weeker and a 42 weeker.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's not really any consideration given actual truly at 38, 39, 40 weeks, actual consideration given to this is still normal.
Yeah. And that's what, like, that's such a great point because, you know, still attending births and also working at Belly Bliss and seeing all the variations too. I have had clients where their providers, you know, are starting to talk about induction around 37, 38 weeks. And, you know, the saying that breaks my heart when they repeat it back to me is nothing good happens after 39 weeks, which is really hard to kind of push back on because yes, again, they go through all the things that could happen. And how are we presenting? What's going on?
Yeah.
What is happening in our pregnancy that's making somebody think that? This is where we ask questions. Yeah. Always ask questions in that way because when we do get closer to that 38, 39 week, 40, 41, 42 week, that's still normal. Yeah. That's still normal of what's happening in through there. Yep. And like my sister, for example, I jokingly, in the most loving way, like I call her Crock-Pot. She is small stature. She's like 5 feet and a quarter. Her husband's much taller. He's about 6'2", 6'4", something like that. And she has big babies. Yeah. And that's okay, but they need a little bit more time to cook is what I say. And so she does long and slow. She's if they didn't induce her, she would be like a 42 weeker probably. Yeah. Yep.
And my sister-in-law falls towards the other end of that spectrum with all of her babies coming in the 37th week. Yeah. On their own.
Yeah,
just,
exactly.
You know, and weighed between like 6.5, 7 pounds, like a totally normal sized baby. Yeah. They don't look or act early in any sense. Yeah. Right. So they're 37 and 2 is normal. 41 and 6 is still normal.
Still normal. Yeah.
So I think that's, you know, unfortunately, what I've seen in the last 20 years, and I think it's been happening for a lot longer than that, but that's just sort of my frame of reference here, is that induction has absolutely come to be the norm. For most pregnant women in America. Yes. Right? Like that's not across the board, but by far and away the majority of women are going to be approached with induction, will be discussed. What a lot of patients are getting is at some point, when would you like to schedule your induction? Like there's just the assumption of we're going to do this. And if the baby comes before that, great.
And it's different in Europe too, right? Like we have a client who's from France, right? Yeah. And she's kind of trying to figure out how to navigate the US birth
because
system.
It's so wildly different than sort of what she grew up with and what she has come culturally to learn are the normal ways that birth are handled. Yeah. Right. And has literally been told by her provider, well, that's not how we do it in the US. Yeah. Which is
hard
and dismissive. Yeah. You know, it's fine to say, so we do things a little bit differently here. Yep. You know, here's our standard protocol. Yeah. If there are parts of this that you have questions about, feel free to ask me. Totally. Because you're a provider. Yeah. It is your responsibility to explain it. Even if you didn't choose it, you're part of a system that does it this way. Yep. But you exist as a part of the system and you are going to do it this way. She deserves to understand why. Yep. she's not asking to explain why it's done differently in France.
Yes.
She's asking to explain why it's done that way here.
Yeah.
And she's meeting a lot of resistance in getting any comprehensive answers about the whys.
Yeah.
It is just a lot of dismissal. And so I think what I hope is for patients who are feeling that they are feeling pressured by anyone to go to or go through an induction that they have doubts or reservations about is, again, to ask questions.
Yes.
Right. And there are a lot of the research that exists after 39 weeks loves to focus on big and scary.
Yeah.
And so the reality is, yes, as we age, risks go up. The further along the pregnancy goes, the higher the likelihood that complications happen because more time has passed. Therefore, there is more time for things to go wrong. It's not automatically, you are this age, you are this many weeks, your baby's not going to survive if we don't get them here now. Yeah. And I think that jump to fear-based is where a lot of patients are feeling pressure to do things. Yeah. Because they're being told if they choose not to do whatever the policy is, they're putting themselves and their babies at risk. And I don't think it's fair to have people making fear-based decisions. Agreed. This is where we see parents down the road who start having doubts. They start second guessing the decisions they made. Yeah. Oftentimes because there wasn't full disclosure and informed consent. Yep. And something came up that they weren't warned about. And they're like, well, why didn't they tell me before? Why didn't they? For everything that I ever do, I don't want patients ever not feeling good about how their birth went because they didn't have enough information beforehand to feel like they made the best decision. Yeah. You know, I find myself all the time that you made the best decision you could in that moment with the information you have. Don't go back in time and beat up past you because you didn't know then what you know now. Yeah. It doesn't change their emotions around it. Totally. It doesn't change how they feel about it. Yeah. And I have had a patient who, talking about induction, and I was like, all right, have they done like, what are we doing to support that? Right. What natural things are we doing to try to ensure that when the time comes, your body is ready? People like to call these natural induction methods. I'm like, dates, we've got research. Dates do a lot. Yeah. Dates alone are not putting you into labor. No, it's not an induction method, right? Yay. Yes. But, so how do we support the body so that when the time comes, whether through baby's initiation or through induction, your body's ready to go? And said, well, and if the induction doesn't work, and it was another one of those like deer in the headlights, like, what do you mean if it doesn't work? I was like, well, not all inductions are successful. She's like, what do you mean? Like, so I just stay pregnant forever? I was like, no, you labor for a day, 3 days. I've had some labor for 5 days. Yeah. And then you have a C-section. She was like, what? The way that she understood it, and I don't know how it was explained or if it was explained, but her perception of it was, if I have an induction, I'm guaranteed a vaginal birth.
That's so hard.
Right? Like, and to me, it was like, you were not given nearly enough information about what you're signing on the dotted line for. There are actually a lot of things that we can look at to determine whether or not an induction is likely to be successful. If you have to be induced at 37 weeks for medical reasons, you want to have an understanding of this big picture because, it could be long. Absolutely. Same thing could happen at 42 weeks, right? It can happen at any point. But I think as a part of a system, we can be treated as a number. We're always looking at your risk, right? What are the statistics? Here's your risk. The reality is your risk is not the same as her risk or their risk or my risk. And I understand that this is the policy. I understand that this is what you would like, right? Like this is path of least resistance. It feels like, well, we're guaranteeing none of these scary things happen if we just induce now. Yeah. Right. If there's this risk at 40 weeks and we induce at 39, we avoid that risk. Yeah. What's the percentage of risk? Yeah. And then what is your individual risk, right? Everybody deserves to be treated as an individual. Yeah. How are your labs? How's your baby doing? Right? Like if you're good, baby's good, you've been low risk this whole time, we're not seeing changes anywhere. Where's the urgency? Yeah. right? And if you're physically miserable, if you have a husband who gets 1 week off from his deployment to come home and be here when you have your baby, sometimes there are other things that are going to impact that decision. And induction is the best choice for whatever reason. Again, those are the exceptions. We're just talking about what we see so regularly, which are these patients who've had pretty low risk, relatively easy, uncomplicated pregnancies, and nothing is changing. We're not seeing spikes in blood pressure. We're not spilling protein into the urine. Like there isn't a sudden and urgent need to deliver this baby. It's just, ding, you hit 39 weeks. So now's the time that we induce because this baby didn't come on their own. It's like, well, statistically, they weren't very likely to come on their own. They're ready from the sense that they're not likely going to need external support when they get here. But I don't think the realities of the potential complications about induction get fully covered.
Totally. Well, and that's what I want people, and induction's a whole nother conversation, but when it comes to that type of stuff, I think it goes back to your point of we're trying to control things, because when things are predictable, they're easier to control, they're easier to manage. Birth is one of the most unpredictable things that could ever happen. And the estimated due date is part of that domino effect that we have kind of like put on women in their pregnancy. And it's just like this ticking time bomb.
It's a date on the calendar.
Exactly.
You stare at it for 10 months. Everything in your life for 10 months is dictated by that date on the calendar.
Exactly. And that's why I like to reframe it with all of our clients. I'm like, it's your due window. Yay. Because it's a snapshot of time of potentially when your baby might be here. But then it turns into that domino effect. And I want people to understand to ask questions about the induction methods. When it comes to, if we get to that point, all right, your estimated due date is next week, and let's get your induction on the calendar. If your baby's not here by 40 weeks, is understanding all of the methods and what they are. What are not the black box warning, but what are the potential risks that come with those
Everything
things?
carries risk.
Absolutely.
Just like continuing to stay pregnant carries risk. Right? Everything comes with risk. Each individual person deserves to be able to do their own risk benefit analysis and make the choice that sits best with them. But the risks have to be explained. And the benefits have to be explained in order to do that. And I think that's the piece that kind of gets skipped over a little bit.
Absolutely.
I think the goal today was not specifically to talk about induction, but ultimately why the variability of the due date is important. Is because that's what's on the table. Right? Is with each passing week that goes by, risks are going up. We're certainly not arguing that. But understanding that to go 40 days plus 1, you're not overdue, you're not past due, your baby's not late, your body isn't failing to go into labor. This isn't inherently a problem that needs to be managed. Right? Like maybe you are going in every couple of days and getting your blood pressure checked and listening to baby's heart, right? Like maybe we want to be paying attention and make sure that you and baby are doing okay, because the risk that you won't be are higher. But I think it's important to strike the balance between let's step in 37 points before big and scary happens. Let's be watching all along the way so that we are able to catch and capture when things start to veer off course. And intervention absolutely becomes necessary. I think in an effort to prevent, we're not preventing, we're proactively intervening in a process that for most people will unfold in time without any additional risk to mom and baby.
And the flip side of that too is, we're talking about, I feel fine, but all my providers are telling me that there are all these risks that happen. The flip side of that too there are times when providers say all looks good, everything is fine, and you inherently feel like something is not right, this is kind of what we're talking about of, you know your body better than anybody else. Yes, we're talking about estimated due dates, but your estimated due date could be weeks away, and you know inherently that something is not right, right? Follow that intuition. Understand that there are things that happen, right? And when it comes to pregnancy, birth, postpartum, there's so many different nuances and variations, right? But really trying to tap into, a lot of times we get written off because we're just hormonal, right? And so we're like, well, maybe it's just because of my hormones that I'm feeling this way. I'm like, no. Like, I mean,
it's possible,
but not likely if you feel like something is wrong in your body.
And are you going to be able to sit back and go, oh, it's just my hormones, and not be worried and stressed about it anymore?
Exactly. Yeah.
Because if you hear that and it doesn't change anything for you, and you continue to sit there and be stressed out and worry about it, then we still haven't gotten to the right place, right? We still don't have the answers. If the ultimate answer is, hey, we've ruled out all the big and scary, you might just be hormonal. Okay, well then this is what it is. And at least I know I'm okay. My baby's okay. Like, yes, I think there is a lot of opportunity on both ends to kind of be dismissed. And I, I've said this before, and I'll continue to say it. I still believe that everybody in healthcare really truly is trying to help in the way that they've been trained. But also how they show up and how they support patients is always colored by their own experiences. And that changes from day to day. Right? Like, I've had a patient who went in, like, everything was normal and went in, and OB was kind of like, well, we need to get you on the books for an induction because like this and this and this could happen. And the patient was freaked out, like comes crying into our office. And I was like, well, it's, those things are possible. I was like, she's like, I don't know. It was just like really weird that they'd never said anything about this before. And then she was supposed to get a call to schedule her induction. She never got the call. She went back in the next week, and the OB apologized. She was like, I just want to apologize to you. I didn't have them call you for induction. She had come off of a shift of like multiple of like the biggest and scariest births she'd ever seen. So she shows up in the office for that day. She's carrying with her, I almost lost moms and babies in the last 24 hours. And now I don't ever want that to happen again. What can I do to keep all of these patients safe? Right. And this is how I keep them safe. We control this. We do an induction. We make sure we don't get I was like, good on her for saying, I apologize. You and your baby are healthy. We don't need to schedule but I don't know how often that happens. It was like, and it's the same for us, right? Who shows up in front of you as a provider is dependent on the patient before you, and all those things. That's our experience, right? There's our training and there's our experience. And the more experience you have, hopefully the more you're able to take a look at the big picture, but still be able to treat each person as an individual and assess their individual risk.
Absolutely.
And so when you're hearing conflicting information from conflicting providers, that's part of it. We're not here saying, argue with your providers, refuse to go in for an induction. No,
none of that.
But if you still have questions, if you don't understand why you've been taken from one category and put into another, why we weren't talking about induction, now we are, ask more questions so that you feel good about it. If you're not feeling good about it, you need to get more answers. And if you are feeling good about it, great. You're probably going to continue to feel good about it after the fact, even if something new comes to light or you gather more information. But when there's doubt, we see that seed of doubt planted, and it tends to only sprout and grow and turn into a hairy monster, not just disappear. Right. Every once in a while it does. Every once in a while, there's something wild that goes on, and we're like, oh my gosh, thank goodness we did the induction now. Thank goodness we did the C-section. Great. But it's not most of what we see.
Totally.
And so I think that for parents to understand, like, if you are feeling like, I just kind of want to wait till this baby comes, I think that's a natural feeling. If you don't have a provider that's supporting that, be asking why and understanding why. Is this just part of a policy or a protocol? Is there the ability for me to come in and do more monitoring.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes that's the conversation of like, I understand this is where you feel safe and this is where I feel safe. How do we meet in the middle?
Yep.
Right. And I've had patients, only a handful over the years, and most of them were in healthcare, who went past 42 weeks.
Yeah.
It's not really allowed,
Mm-hmm.
right? There isn't a whole lot of research that supports continuing a pregnancy past 42 weeks, and that's fair. But those handful, they were going in for sometimes 3 to 5 hours of monitoring and non-stress tests every single day. But that was the balance they struck, right?
Yeah.
It was like, there's really no indicator for induction other than the mark on the calendar.
Yeah.
So if I'm fine and baby's fine, I want to keep being pregnant.
Yeah.
And all of them were fine.
Yep.
And they had uncomplicated births, and maybe they didn't ovulate when they thought they ovulated. You know, like maybe there was variability here. Maybe they take longer to cook their baby, whatever it was.
Yep. And cycles change too. Not every woman has the same cycle length too. So that, like, the way we calculate that due date is based off of everyone has a 28-day cycle. Yeah. It's like, okay, well, some people have 30 and some people have 25 and some people is different and changes every couple months. Yeah. Like, right. So there's lots of variation there too. And what I try as best I can, I always joke with people, if we're out in the wild and you start talking about birth, just don't ask me questions because I won't shut up.
There's so many awesome memes from like birth workers about like somebody at the table next to me started talking about birth.
Yeah.
And, you know,
or
like
somebody
in the wild asked me about, and I was like,
yeah, I know. I always like, tell my partner, like, pinch me, just pinch me, just pinch me. Just tell me, like, get me to stop, pull me away, do something. Anyway, but the one thing I always try to just like put in there, if we're thinking about having children, if we're thinking about exploring different, you know, do I want this hospital? Do I want a birth center? Do I want a home birth? That kind of stuff, is interview providers. Yeah. Because you can ask these questions, right? Yeah. Like, you can always ask a provider, how do you feel about due dates? What's the practice when it comes to due dates? If I go over, how do you feel about that? Yeah. Where do we start those conversations? You can have those conversations. Yeah. So when you come into this now pregnant, you feel really confident of who you're working with. Yeah. Ask what the policies are, right? Yeah. Like, especially for a hospital, every hospital has different policies. Yeah. So ask, what is the hospital policy around due dates? And then provider-wise, what are you comfortable with compromising on when it comes to due dates because of your policy? Yeah. That's a very empowering place to be in. Yeah. And you don't come at it combative. It's a conversation that you have. And you can absolutely 100% interview people, because at the end of the day, they work for you. Yes. And they're there to support you. And you want to make sure that you feel safe and supported by them.
And they don't want combative patients.
Exactly.
They're not looking for friction in this relationship, right? Like, they, as providers, we would love if every person that walked in the door was fully aligned with what we believe and, you know, that how we work together to meet your goals. That's not the reality, right? Like, it's getting to know somebody. It's understanding how they practice, what is within their ability within the place in which you've chosen to live, right? There are a lot of pieces here. Yeah. I mean, first step is getting patients to ask these questions in pregnancy, because that's not happening.
Yeah. Well, sometimes they don't even know what questions to ask.
Yes.
Don't worry, we have things coming for that.
Yeah. But I mean, I think that's part of it, is I think for a lot of people, they haven't really given a lot of consideration to this topic until somebody starts talking about induction or starts talking about your due date. You know, it is often the very end of pregnancy. And I do see this happen too, where they feel like they have felt aligned with providers all along the way, and they've kind of made assumptions that because we've been aligned with these, we'll continue to be aligned all the way along. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, like, and now they've never talked about induction before. I'm like, well, there's something to talk about at 20 weeks. You know what I mean? Like, so there are things that are really important throughout the pregnancy and can have a big impact on what choices are on the table for you for birth. Yeah. And a lot of times, by the time it comes up naturally, or by the time you realize that we're not aligned on this topic, it feels like it's too late to switch providers or switch birthing locations or any of that. Like, it doesn't feel good to do that in third trimester, right? You've got somebody that you trust and you've established a relationship with. So then we have people who are then having to choose, am I changing my birth wishes? Am I going to lose something that was important to me to stick with this provider that I trust? Or am I starting this process over again of trying to find an aligned provider and find somewhere to give birth? Like, neither one of those are great. Yeah. Right. That's something that is going to bring in stress into the pregnancy at a time where you really kind of want to be settling in and preparing for this baby. So yeah, I mean, I think just having some understanding around your due date and starting to think about, what does it mean? Like, if you feel like it's a very flexible thing, does your provider feel like it's a very flexible thing? There are absolutely patients who, for various reasons, do want or need a little bit more control around when baby arrives. Yeah. Is your provider on board with that? Because not every provider in every place is going to do any type of induction, natural or medical, right? So it's not, there's a right way or a wrong way. It's trying to figure out what you want while you still have choices to make. And finding a provider and a place and a team that are all aligned with helping you reach that goal. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Snaps for that one. Here. And on our next topic around due dates, we'll talk about all the old school ways to try to figure out when baby's coming. Yeah, absolutely. And we'll talk about signs too that come up. What I've seen in practice consistently, they're like about a week or two away from when baby decides to come here. So we'll dive into all of that next time. Yay. Awesome, guys. Thanks for listening. Have a good one. If you found today's episode helpful, you can subscribe, share it with a friend, or leave a review. It helps this podcast reach the families who need it most. You can find us at Belly Bliss in Denver and online for resources, workshops, and support. Until next time, take care of your body and trust its wisdom.